Good evening and welcome to the National News Broadcast. We are ready to bring you the top stories from home and around the world. I'm Natalia Virval.
Good evening, I'm Charity Viliprarachi, and now let's move on to the headlines for tonight's news.
The remains of late former Minister Arumugam Thondaman laid in Parliament today. Final rites set to take place on May 31st. A new housing project for middle-income earning public under a concessionary loan scheme. Island-wide curfew enforced on May 31st, June 4th and 5th. Conflicts between United National Party and Samaki Jana Balawegaya. 30% of the global COVID-19 death toll has recorded from the USA.
And now on the top story, remains of the late leader of Salon Workers' Congress and former Minister Arumugam Thondaman was brought to the parliamentary complex this morning. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and public representatives paid their last respects to the late minister. The remains of the late minister was laid at his residence in Batharamulla before bringing them to the parliament. Subsequently, the remains of the late minister was brought to the parliamentary complex in a special motorcade. The remains were accepted by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and former Speaker Karu Jayasuriya. The remains were laid in state at the Assembly Hall of the Parliament, and President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and others paid their last respects to the remains of the late minister. Ministers, former parliamentarians, foreign diplomats and parliamentary staff were present at this occasion. Later, the remains of the late minister was taken to the headquarters of Salon Workers' Congress in Kollupitia. Many who arrived to the premises paid their last respects to the remains of the late minister. The remains will be taken to the headquarters of Salon Workers' Congress in Kottagala tomorrow. The remains will lay at the headquarters premises until 31st of May. The funeral of the late minister will be held at the Norwood Stadium on the same evening. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has issued a message of condolence on the demise of late Minister Arumugam Thondaman. The message has indicated that the Prime Minister would forever remember how the late minister bid farewell to him before his demise. The Prime Minister has said in his message that during the last meeting, the late minister discussed on normalizing the livelihoods of his people affected from the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister has said that as a leader dedicated to ensure the protection of democracy, the late minister never allowed terrorism to erupt within the plant and worker communities. The Prime Minister reminded the support rendered by the late minister as a leader who stood against the forces encouraged to divide the nation. The late minister addressed plantation workers' communities as our people. The condolence message of the Prime Minister has stated that let us sympathetically bid adieu to late Minister Arumugam Thondaman, who created such memories in our minds.
Welcome back with more local stories. Salon Workers' Congress had made a request to Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa to give nominations to Jeevan Thondaman to contest a general election from Nuwara district in lieu of late Minister Arumugam Thondaman. The decision was reached by the political committee of the Salon Workers' Congress. In a message issued by the Prime Minister's office, the members of the political committee of the Congress had discussed on this regard with the Prime Minister at his official residence in Vijayarama Road. The request was presented by Deputy Chairman of the party, Senthil Thondaman. Salon Workers' Congress is a party that represents the Sri Lanka Freedom Pothujan Alliance and has submitted nominations for the upcoming elections with the alliance. The request of the Salon Workers' Congress is to give nominations to Jeevan Thondaman to contest a general election from Nuwara district in lieu of late Minister Arumugam Thondaman.
The Cabinet of Ministers has granted approval to commence a new housing project for middle-income earning public. It was revealed at the media briefing held to announce the Cabinet decisions today that the housing units under the new program will be extended to the public through a concessionary loan scheme. Meanwhile, the Cabinet of Ministers has directed attention in commencing a new university in Nuwara district. Co-cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that late former Minister Arumugam Thondaman requested President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to establish a university in Nuwara district during the presidential election campaign stage. He said that a cabinet paper will be moved to establish 3 universities, namely a chartered university, a university on biodiversity technology in Ambewela, and National University in Kotagala. He said that necessary preparations expected to be made to complete the National University prior to the first death anniversary of the late minister. Co-cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Ramesh Patirana said that Cabinet of Ministers granted approval yesterday to commence a new housing project for middle-income earning public as a joint venture of the state and private sector under a concessionary loan scheme. The attention of the Cabinet of Ministers has directed to provide loan facilities with concessionary interest rates for artists and media personnel. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that the President expected to hold meetings with relevant parties to extend a loan scheme to artists under concessionary interest rates extended by People's Bank on the basis of repayment of the obtained loans. It was also announced that a stabilization policy for the price rates of petroleum has also been introduced. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that a petroleum stabilization fund has been established. He added that under the fund, a portion of the excess revenue earned from petroleum will be credited to a separate special account. He said that the Petroleum Corporation currently has a massive debt. He said that the interest payment of over millions of rupees to the banks can be saved through this initiative. He said that the debt related to the Salon Electricity Board can also be repaid, which could potentially extend a relief for the general public.
And meanwhile, Presidential Media Division has announced that an island-wide curfew will be imposed on Sunday, May 31st. Accordingly, the curfew will be enforced in all districts in the country on Sunday, May 31st. The curfew will be effective in all the districts from Monday, June 1st to Wednesday, June 3rd, only within the period between 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Curfew will be enforced island-wide on Thursday, June 4th and Friday, June 5th. From Saturday, June 6th onwards, curfew will be effective in all districts as before from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. daily until further notice. Movement between remaining districts except Colombo and Gampaha districts will be permitted.
Total number of recoveries from COVID-19 in the country has increased up to 745, while 748 active COVID-19 patients are still receiving treatments in hospital thus far. A total of 34 confirmed COVID-19 patients were detected today, and 15 of them were returnees from Kuwait. Another 17 patients have been identified as returnees from Dubai, and 2 were detected from Sri Lanka Navy. A total of 151 COVID-19 patients were detected yesterday, and 97 of them were returnees from abroad. The Ministry of Health said that 53 of the patients identified were members of the Sri Lanka Navy. A total of 321 out of 466 returnees from Kuwait has been confirmed as COVID-19 patients thus far. Accordingly, 465 patients out of the total number 1,503 of COVID-19 infected patients have been identified as returnees from foreign countries, which is 30.94% of the total infected patients in the country. The total number of 729 confirmed cases in the country has been identified as members of Sri Lanka Navy and their close contacts, which is 48.5% of the total infected patients of the country. COVID-19 infected patients identified from the outer communities in the country amount to 309, which is 20.56% of the total number of COVID-19 patients. Meanwhile, 13 COVID-19 patients have been discharged from hospitals after completely recovering from the disease. 2 equipments worth 1 million rupees, which can be utilized to treat critical patients, was donated to the Homagama Hospital yesterday. The donation was directed by the Califlink, a logistics company, a subsidiary of Sea Line Group of companies. The chairman of the group, Captain Ajit Pires, donated the equipment to Director General of Health Services, Dr. Anil Jasingha.
And the World Health Organization Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus announced the creation of a foundation that will enable the organization to tap new sources of funding, including the general public. Announcing the creation of the WHO Foundation at a virtual briefing yesterday, the WHO Director General denied the move was related to recent funding issues, citing the formation of the foundation has been in the works for many years.
For WHO to fulfill its mission and mandate, there is a clear need to broaden our donor base and to improve both the quantity and quality of funding we receive, meaning more flexible funding. Since February 2018, we have been hard at work supporting the establishment of the WHO Foundation, and today, after a hard work of 2 years, more than 2 years, it gives us enormous pleasure to launch it officially, to launch the WHO Foundation. This is a historic step for WHO as an integral part of our resource mobilization strategy to broaden the contributor base. This has many benefits, as I said, and it has nothing to do with the recent funding issues, but this is something that started with the transformation that can help the organization or WHO to improve the quality of funding, to increase the amount of funding, to serve the people we serve in a better way.
For signing the Memorandum of Understanding between WHO and WHO Foundation.
And now on more stories, Boeing announced on Wednesday it would cutting more than 12,000 US jobs as the largest American plane maker restructures due to the global health crisis. Boeing announced yesterday it's cutting over 12,000 US jobs with more on the way.
Boeing announced on Wednesday it's cutting over 12,000 U.S. jobs, with more on the way. They include nearly 7,000 involuntary layoffs this week. The largest American plane maker is trying to restructure over the global health crisis. Boeing also disclosed several thousand more layoffs in the months to come, but did not say where those would take place. The company is slashing costs as a sharp drop in travel demand pulls Boeing's falling fortunes down even further. The company grounded its 737 MAX jet last year after 2 fatal crashes of the plane. The job cuts include nearly 10,000 employees in Washington state. And in April, Boeing said it would cut 10% of its worldwide workforce, made up of some 160,000 employees, by the end of the year. However, Boeing also raised $25 billion in a bond offering last month, which allowed it to avoid taking government aid. That's despite the company recording 0 orders for its planes for the second time this year, marking the worst start to the company's year since 1962.
And Prime Minister Boris Johnson urged Britain yesterday to move on from what he described as a very, very frustrating episode when his closest advisor provoked outrage and scorn for travelling during the coronavirus lockdown.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson delivered the simple message for the British people to just move on from the row over the actions of his closest government aide, Dominic Cummings.
You think the public will believe you?
Some still want answers over why Cummings deemed it right to drive his family 250 miles to self-isolate during the UK's lockdown and consequently keep his job. The Prime Minister continued to repeatedly back his advisor when answering questions from members of the UK Parliament on Wednesday, and he would not be pursuing further inquiry.
That it would not be doing my job if I were now to shuffle this problem into the hands of officials. I totally understand public indignation. I totally understand that. But I do think that as I understand things, and I've said what I've said about the whole business, I think it would be much better if we could now move on and focus on the next steps. I, of course, am deeply sorry for all the hurt and pain and anxiety that people have been going through throughout this period. This country has been going through a frankly most difficult time. We're asking people to do quite exceptionally tough things, separating them from their families.
The questioning on Dominic Cummings overshadowed the announcement of a test and trace service the UK government is rolling out from Thursday across England to help the loosening of lockdown measures.
Entertainment conglomerate Walt Disney has cleared one hurdle in its plan to start reopening Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida on 11th July. Disney will begin phasing in a reopening of its Walt Disney World theme park in Orlando, Florida in July, according to a plan released on Wednesday.
Disney will begin phasing in a reopening of its Walt Disney World theme park in Orlando, Florida in July, according to a plan released on Wednesday. In Phase 1, doors will open at Magic Kingdom and the Animal Kingdom on July 11th, followed by Epcot Center and Hollywood Studios on July 15th. Orlando will be the first U.S. Disney theme park to reopen after all parks were shut worldwide back in March. Shanghai Disneyland, which reopened in early May, has been used as the model for how to reopen. Face coverings will now be required for all employees and guests, and temperature screenings will be conducted at the gate. Park attendance will be limited due to the need for social distancing, and in an attempt to limit human-to-human contact, Disney is encouraging the use of contactless payment systems and expanding digital payment options at food establishments park-wide. And just as in Shanghai, there will be no parades, fireworks, or other crowd-drawing activities at Florida's Disney World. The reopening plan was approved by a county task force and must now be signed off by Florida's governor. Disney's planned opening is more than a month behind rival Universal Studios. That amusement park is set to reopen on June 5th. And other Florida attractions like SeaWorld and Busch Gardens have also proposed June reopenings, according to local media.
World leaders and other dignitaries have been calling and sharing messages on social media to convey their best wishes to Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa as he marks 50 years since being elected to Parliament. Among the leaders who have called include Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of Bangladesh Sheikh Hasina and the President of Maldives Ibrahim Mohamed Zoli. During the call, Prime Minister Modi also commended Sri Lanka for its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister Modi said that it was a matter of great satisfaction that in Sri Lanka the COVID-19 situation is under control. The Indian Prime Minister told Prime Minister Rajapaksa that the credit for the success goes to Government of Sri Lanka for having taken very effective steps. Prime Minister Rajapaksa thanked India for its support during the COVID-19 crisis. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa appreciated Indian Prime Minister's initiative to establish the COVID fund among SAARC members countries, and Prime Minister Rajapaksa further said that it was a very important initiative. The two leaders shared a commitment to continue working together closely for mutual prosperity.
And meanwhile, the United National Party has taken steps to suspend the party membership of several members who had given nominations under Samagi Janabalavega. Reports have indicated that the relevant letters in this regard have been sent to those members by General Secretary of the United National Party. Former parliamentarian Ajit P. Perera said that the final official decision reached by the Working Committee of the United Party was to form the Samagi Janabalavega Alliance and to hand over the leadership of the alliance to former parliamentarian Sajith Premadasa. He said that if an entity has worked against these decisions and opted to contest under the elephant symbol while violating party disciplinary code would be party leader Ranil Wickremesinghe, former MPs Ravi Karunanayake and Akhila Viraj Karivism and their supporters. Former MP Ravi Karunanayake said that the entities who have similar attitudes caused an issue by contesting in the presidential election. He said that the progress of the United National Party would not be stopped amid such hindrance. And President's Counsel Gamini Marafan informed the Supreme Court that judiciary has no power to issue an order recalling the parliament dissolved by the President. These remarks were made when the fundamental rights petition filed challenging the date of the general election and on dissolving the parliament were taken up for consideration in the 8th of day today.
The
The petitions were considered before a 5-member judge bench comprised of Chief Justice Jayanta Jayasuriya, Bonekalu Vihari, Sisudhara Abro and Vijit Malalgode today. At the hearing, President's Counsel Gamani Marapana, representing intervenient petitioner Venerable Attapukande Anandathera, informed the court that no legal provision has been cited in the constitution to hold an election and convene the parliament within 3 months of the dissolution of parliament. Therefore, he moved the Supreme Court to dismiss the petition without considering them, outlining that the petitions have no legal basis. Meanwhile, President's Counsel Kushan, always appearing intervenient petitioner Dr. Gunadas Amarasekara, made submissions to the court, citing that the petitions have been filed to gain political advantage amid COVID-19 pandemic. President's Counsel Ali Sabri, appearing for intervenient petitioner Sudanta Lienige, pointed out the Supreme Court that the Election Commission has been empowered under the Parliamentary Election Act to postpone general election for a period of more than 3 months. Therefore, he said that the arguments presented by the petitioners claiming that the parliamentary election should be held within 3 months period since the dissolution of the parliament are baseless. Representing Venerable Muruthettu Anandathera, President's Counsel Sanjay Javardhana said that under the Appropriation Act passed in 2019, the government was empowered to borrow domestic and international loans until April 30th. He pointed out that with the availability of such legal provisions, the President has no necessity to reconvene the dissolved Parliament to proceed with the measures to borrow loans. Further consideration of the petition was postponed till 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Deputy Inspector General of Police Muditha Pussala says that the possibility to avert the Easter Sunday attacks prevailed if the former Defence Secretary and the Inspector General of Police were more considerate over the national security. Recording a statement before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry on the Easter Sunday attacks, the DIG said that all entities, including higher officials, are following a theory to escape from the responsibility by issuing written directives. Deputy Inspector General of Police Muditha Pussala, who recorded a statement before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry on the Easter Sunday attacks for the 3rd time today, was on duty as a Senior Superintendent of Police in Mount Lavinia during the Easter Sunday attack period. Responding to a query posed by the Commission over a potential attack, the DIG stated that he was informed about the potential attack through a fax received on 11th April and prompt action was taken in this regard. He said that he took steps in accordance to the instructions directed by the Deputy Inspector General of Police. The witness said that the clergy of the churches in his division were informed to a certain extent through community committees visiting all the churches and in Moratuwa. In addition, he said that a security post was established inside the premises of the St. Mary's Church in Dehibala for the Easter Sunday celebrations in accordance to a decision reached during a meeting held on the 18th over the security detailing of the program. He further added that the priest in charge of the church also requested for police protection. He also added that a member of the church committee inquired him over the potential threat, and then chief priest of the church, Reverend Father Dayabalikadarachi, was also present at the meeting. He further said that relevant information and photographs of the bombers, including Zaran, was in possession of the intelligence agencies. Through instructions were directed to divisional level police units to investigate and find out more details of the bombers. He said that the attack could have been averted if the intelligence agencies had provided the appropriately assessed information which they possessed for relevant investigations as orders to the police. Responding to a query posed by the Commission, the witness said that the State Intelligence Service and the police had failed to assess the information, accordingly failed to convene a meeting and relay the information to the relevant entities. He said that if the former Defence Secretary and the Inspector General of Police were more considerate over the national security, the Sri Lanka Army would have been convened within a short period of time. He further stated that the authorities could have updated His Eminence Cardinal over the potential threat on an unofficial basis without following a theory to escape from the responsibility by issuing written directives.
And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Do it us tomorrow at the very same time. Stay safe. Good night.
Good night.